How has your thought process changed being in business in 2005 with just 5 people and then, going up the ladder to 100 people? What has been kind of the struggle and the tips you have for people kind of engaging in that type of scale?
I think, business culture is going to be such an important piece. It's what attracts people to a company. It's, in the end, people do business with other people. That's who's making buying decisions, right? And so having great people internally should be a priority of every entrepreneur that's out there, both from finding founders as well as those earliest employees. And so there's some kind of tools, if you will, that and mental models that we used. The first one is being, and again, as silly and as maybe obvious as this sound, is having a common set of language. And so that comes down to, what are your values? What's important to you? How do you speak about your company? So for us, we have a number of values, and I'll just share one or two of them now. We have the value of excellence. So that's a term that's often used many times, but we interpret that and kind of define that as, if we're going to bother doing a project or pursuing an opportunity, we're going to do it with our entire heart. We're not going to be divided about it. Goes back to those strategic choices. We're going to go at it all the way. We also value innovation, and innovation, it doesn't have to be game changing. It could be how we run meetings. It could be the software that we're using, being willing to be part of other companies' pilot programs and prototypes. And so staying at the forefront is important to us. So you can have values, and I think that's the baseline to establish a culture. But then you also need to recognize and reward people for what I call living out those values. So we have a great tool internally called Chatter. It's put out by Salesforce. Another one, obviously, that's very popular is Slack. So the ability to be able to give these shout outs and thank yous to people, or badge, if you will, badge people for living out values, or just completing kind of a job well done. So I think we've put a real emphasis on the values, a growth or a high performance oriented corporate culture, and then really trying to make this tangible for when people are either walking in or doing business with us, walking in for an interview, maybe a consultant that we might be working with, and symbolizing the culture and what we call tangible artifacts. So it's literally comes down to the physical space that you see. And just looking in the background, there's even a variety of seating, from these coves that you can see that kind of off in the distance. They're the pink, to these high bar stool type environments, to really kind of an open seating plan that's called the living office. So we've trying to take all of these ideas from values to our work ethic and make that representative, and have our physical office environment support those modes of work. And so I think all of that attracts the right kind of people that are ultimately going to make up an amazing corporate culture.
Is there any do's or don'ts for people who are in smaller companies today? Like smaller, obviously they're starting their companies. They don't have 100 employees. They have maybe 3 to 4. Is there some things you can share as to what they should be doing right now or not doing to ensure that as they scale, they don't run into this confused company culture concept of not even having one in many cases and just letting it kind of form itself?
I think that's actually such a great point, is don't let it form itself. It really needs to come from the founders. Stephanie and I still interview every employee that comes in, or prospective employee, at the really it's the second or third. It's really the last interview before they're tendered an offer. And we call that the founder heart to heart. And so we get away from the reviewing of resumes and really just have a conversation, because we understand it's an opportunity for the candidate to interview us as much as the other way around. So I think that's a do. I think founders and entrepreneurs should be interviewing every single person they're thinking of bringing into their environment. But you need to be intentional about it. So this is another do. Be intentional about how you're setting up your culture. Get involved. Be present. Even if it's walking around your office. I mean, basically the behavior and the actions that the founder takes or the entrepreneur, the leader of the company take are going to be reflected. And I see that in the language that I use. If it's positive and uplifting, if it's encouraging, then other people tend to have a sense of gratitude as well amongst each other. And so however you behave and carry yourself absolutely is going to be carried out to everyone else in the company, even if it's just 5 people or 3 people. And lastly, if I may, PJ, just to comment on that I think it's really important as well to have a performance-oriented environment. And what I mean by that is one that's actually metrics-driven. Now, nowadays, the tools are all there. I mean, whether you're using Salesforce CRM or some lightweight CRM or looking at Google Analytics or just, Mixpanel or whatever you're using to track activity to your app or your platform, develop a dashboard. It could be something as simple as in kind of Google Sheets and you're just tracking it month over month, or something very low tech like a whiteboard. I mean, we were huge fans of having whiteboards around where we looked at daily numbers, actually. And so we ran a daily huddle for years and years. Now it's a weekly one, but we ran a daily huddle where Monday through Friday, we literally went, which were kind of mapped out across the top, and we literally ran through a half dozen KPIs that we felt were meaningful for the company. What that did was create, a sense of accountability, 2, a pulse check of how our customers actually feel, what's the user behavior, and 3, better understanding trends. We never felt like we were blindsided. If the traffic was down, maybe it's because there's a holiday in the States, because we're up in Canada. If there was if we launched a campaign, we wanted to see those sales results in near real time. So I think being metrics driven, we went from the whiteboard to spreadsheets to ultimately into a CRM, but we have now really graphic rich and data rich dashboards at the company level, the department level, individual teams, and then personalized dashboards as well. So again, that might be something because it's come out of my personality, if you will. But whatever your personality type is as a founder and someone who's leading a company, find kind of what makes you tick and how you understand your business, and then create a mechanism for other people to share information with you, communication channels for you to share with them as well too, that flow of information, updates, and data. And I think you're going to have a culture that, yeah, it's intentional, but it'll really start to pick up momentum and take shape.